Hi there, thank you so much again for joining me on this channel. As always, I'm very grateful for all your previous views, likes, subscriptions and shares. Movies are a great way to explore religious and moral themes, and I thought for this video we'd have a look at The Batman. I should say that if you've not watched one of my videos before about movies, I don't expect anything particularly high quality, but what I do is I don't actually give a review of the film. I have a separate blog which I keep for movie reviews. The rule is every time I see a movie I haven't seen before, I just churn out a few words. But what I do with these videos is try and look for various religious and moral themes. So there are plot spoilers. So if you haven't seen The Batman and you don't want to know what happens, then you might want to stop this video and perhaps go elsewhere. Always feels a little strange saying that because it's basically saying don't watch this channel. So The Batman has Robert Pattinson as Bruce Wayne, who decides to commit his life to fighting crime as the vigilante, the Batman. The tagline for the movie is Unmask the Truth. So of course Robert Pattinson, who plays Bruce Wayne, wears a mask as the Batman to make sure his identity isn't revealed. And there's also the fact that Batman is trying to solve a series of murders in Gotham City. He is trying to find the truth behind who is committing these crimes. The origins of the word truth come from the Old English truth, meaning, well, truth. Now, interestingly enough, what is truth? It's actually an incredibly profound question. What is it? And it's something which philosophers, and as you remember from previous videos, a philosopher is someone who loves knowledge, have often grappled with this as to actually work out what does it mean. There are, broadly speaking, three ideas about what is truth. The first one is called correspondence theory. Correspondence theory argues that whatever matches up or corresponds with reality must be true. An example of this is the cat sat on the mat. Here we have a cat and we can clearly see it is sitting on a mat. Therefore, it must be truth. If it doesn't match up with reality, therefore, it must be false. So if I was to say the dog sits on the mat, well, that cannot be true. Look at the picture. It's a cat sitting on a mat. The next theory about truth is called the Semantic Theory. Semantics is anything to do with language and words. And here is a bowl of coleslaw. Now, I love coleslaw, but if I was to open up the fridge and say that the coleslaw has gone bad, what would that mean to you? To be honest, please don't look in my fridge at the moment. It's a bit of a mess. When we say the coleslaw is bad, it doesn't mean that it's going to leap out of the fridge when you open the door, batter you over the head, steal your phone and run off down the street. What we mean is that it's no longer fit to eat. It's gone mouldy, it's inedible, it's basically only good enough to be put in the recycling bin. But of course, it's how you understand the word bad in that context. It was a Polish mathematician called Tarski who helped develop the semantic theory. And he was particularly interested in what meanings were given to sentences, and also he viewed sentences as a form of truth bearer. For another example, think about lying, something known as the liar paradox. If I say to you, I am lying, well, it could be true that I am actually lying. But if I'm not, it's also paradoxically false. The meaning of words are critical, and if it comes to trying to explain the truth, then it can be very problematic. Think about how a word in one language can mean an entirely different one in another. And in fact, in The Batman, there's a riddle set by the Riddler, which shows you why MFL is so important in education. The third approach to considering truth is known as the deflationary theory. Take the very simple statement, the snow is white, as you can see from this lovely image here. Of course, if the snow is yellow, then it's best avoided. Those in favour of deflationary theory would say that's all you can say, that snow is white. A deflationist would argue that fundamentally you cannot get anything more beyond than saying snow is white, because truth does not have a nature which can be defined. It can't be teased out logically. It can't be explained rationally, which when you think about it does sort of make sense. When we are first introduced to the Batman, he emerges out of the gloom to confront a criminal gang. There's Michael Giacchino's booming score, which is the loudest score I've ever heard, and he proclaims, "I'm vengeance." Again, doing my favourite trick on Google, the word vengeance comes from a Latin vindice, which means to vindicate, and also merged into the French word avenge, and that's where we get the phrase vengeance. Essentially, it's about inflicting harm or injury on somebody because they have committed a wrongdoing to somebody else. And that's what the Batman does. In fact, it's very visceral. He really does take it out on the bad guys. The Batman works closely with Lieutenant Jim Gordon. Gordon is his only ally in the Gotham City Police Department. The rest of the police department are incredibly wary of the Batman. He's not bound by any code. He doesn't follow police procedure. He's very much a rule unto himself. And actually, that's very interesting. He does have one rule, of course, which of course he will not kill another human being. He's quite happy to maim and to injure them in the process of fighting crime in Gotham. But it pushes at a bigger question about the law and how that ties in with how human beings make a society. Social contract theory has been around for a while in philosophy and has many different shapes and forms to it. Think of it a bit like this. A government and its people have a social contract between each other. The people vote for a government and they are willing to say to that government, yes, you may take my money when it comes to taxes. Yes, I know there are certain things I won't be able to do because there are laws. But in exchange, we are expecting you as a government to protect us, to look after us, to improve education, to improve healthcare, and to make sure that this is a country or a state that everybody can feel safe and prosper. As the Batman investigates the killings, he realises that the social contract in Gotham City has completely broken down. There is corruption in the police, the courts, in fact, everywhere. It's interesting how, as a private, very wealthy individual, Bruce Wayne has taken it upon himself to try and protect the city. And I do wonder if actually there is a modern parallel. Now, I'm not saying that Mark Zuckerberg and Bill Gates are masked vigilantes in their spare time. I mean, they do have the wealth. But if you look at how they are involved in super philanthropy, in other words, making sure that they can give away the vast majority of their wealth to help the world because they see that certain governments have failed, it does make you think. The grand finale of the Batman involves the Riddler trying to destroy the city through flooding. Of course, the Batman is there to save the day, and there's a really interesting moment where he falls into the water after cutting an electrical cable to stop the people of Gotham being electrocuted. As he emerges from the water, there's a slightly different Batman. He realises that actually perhaps using fear the whole time to scare the bad guys, why not be a symbol of encouragement and hope for the good people of the city? In the same way that Moses leads his people to safety from Egypt, the Batman leads his people. In Diwali, those rows of lighted lamps were lit to guide Rama and Sita safely home. Light, of course, brings comfort. Light can banish darkness, and of course, light gives people hope. I do hope there's been something for you, and particularly with the first section where we're looking at what is truth, I have literally just skimmed the surface, but I hope that's inspired you to take your interest in religion and philosophy and morals that little bit further. But most of all, just enjoy the movies, and if you find any moral and religious ideas in them that perhaps you would like me to investigate for another video, then please do, and if you're able to, leave a comment. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, enjoy your learning.